They counted you out, laughed at your fall. But what they didn't realize was that your comeback was loading. And this time, you're not coming to compete, you're coming to conquer. They always talk about the climb, the victory, the glory. But no one wants to talk about rock bottom. That place where your soul feels like it's been ripped open. Where you've lost everything. The respect, the belief, the people, the momentum. And you're left standing there, staring at yourself in the mirror, wondering who the hell you even are anymore. I know that place. I've been there. I've been broken, humiliated, and stripped of everything I thought I needed to survive. And let me tell you something real. Rock bottom isn't the end, it's the beginning. It's the most honest, most raw, and most powerful place a person can ever stand in. Because from that place, there are no more masks. No more pretending. No more distractions. There's just you. And the truth. You want to talk about pain. I've tasted it. I've been betrayed by people I loved, had my name dragged, my character destroyed, my work ridiculed. I've sat alone in silence when the noise of the outside world got too loud. I've been abandoned by the very hands I once fed, lost in a storm of doubts, and left to fight battles with no army. I've stared at bank accounts with numbers that made me sick. I've been mocked, laughed at, dismissed like a joke. And every time I thought, this is it. This is the final blow. Something inside me, something primal, refused to die. It whispered, not yet. That whisper became a roar. See, the problem with most people is they think when they hit bottom, it's game over. But that's just because they've never used rock bottom correctly. That place is not a pit. It's a platform. You build from it. You forge a new version of yourself from it. You kill the weak, soft, dependent version of you. And you birth someone who's forged in chaos. When you lose everything, you realize what actually matters. You stop wasting time. You stop entertaining weakness. You stop needing validation. You wake up to the fact that the world isn't here to save you. No one's coming. You've got to become your own damn hero. That's what I did. I stopped blaming the world for what happened to me. I stopped complaining. I stopped crying about fairness, about betrayal, about how hard it was. Because guess what? Life doesn't care about your tears. It cares about your discipline, your decisions, your will. So I made a decision that no matter how deep I had fallen, I was going to rise so violently, so unapologetically, that even the darkness would regret trying to hold me down. You don't need comfort at rock bottom. You need clarity. You need cold, brutal honesty. You need to look at yourself and say, all right, I messed up. I let my guard down. I became lazy. I got soft. I believed the hype. I got too comfortable. Own it. All of it. Because when you own your failure, you take back control. And when you have control, you have power. And when you have power, you can rebuild. I rebuilt my body, my mind, my routines, my circle. I cut off every voice that whispered weakness. I silenced the world and trained in darkness. No announcements, no cries for help. Just action. Just discipline. Just relentless consistency. While they watched, I worked. While they slept, I strategized. While they mocked, I multiplied. Because when you've hit the bottom, the only thing left to do is rise. And the rise. That's the beautiful part. That's when every lesson you learned in the fall becomes your weapon. That's when the scars on your soul become proof that you can't be killed. That's when the pain becomes your fuel. You become colder, sharper, smarter, not out of hate, but out of hunger. You don't return to prove anything to anyone. You return because staying broken is no longer an option. I know what it feels like to be forgotten. To feel like a ghost walking through life, invisible to the world that once cheered for you. But trust me, that invisibility is a gift. It gives you space to become something terrifyingly real, something disciplined, something that can't be manipulated or broken by this soft world. You stop existing for their approval and start living by your code. And when you finally stand up, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, when you rise with fire in your eyes and silence on your lips, they won't recognize you. They'll wonder how you did it. They'll whisper about your comeback. But they'll never understand your pain, your nights, your demons, your discipline. That's okay. You didn't do it for them. Because rock bottom didn't destroy you. It revealed you. People run from pain like it's the enemy. They hide from it, numb it, blame others for it, act like it's unfair. But here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Pain is the greatest teacher you'll ever meet. It doesn't lie to you. It doesn't flatter you. It doesn't care about your feelings. It rips away every excuse and exposes who you really are. And if you're strong enough to face it, really sit with it, let it burn. It will forge you into someone they can't break again. I didn't become who I am because life handed me wins. I didn't get here because I was lucky. I became this version of myself because I've been through hell. I've had days where I couldn't breathe from the pressure. I've had nights where I was sitting alone, phone silent, heart pounding, wondering if it was even worth it to keep going. I've lost people I thought would be with me forever. I've lost money, opportunities, my reputation. Even lost myself a few times. I've been the villain in stories I never got to explain. I've been hated, doubted, lied about, and written off. And for a while, I was angry. I felt cheated. But looking back now, I needed that pain. It was necessary, because without it, I would have stayed soft, comfortable, blind to the weaknesses that were slowly killing me. You don't grow in comfort. Comfort coddles you. It whispers, you're good enough, even when you're not. Pain doesn't do that. Pain slaps you in the face and says, wake up. Pain forces change. When everything's going right, you cruise. You start slipping. You ignore the cracks. But when life breaks you, when it humbles you, when it takes everything, you either fold or evolve. There was a point in my life where I had to look in the mirror and face a version of myself I didn't like. I had money, success, recognition, but deep down I was soft. I had gotten lazy, undisciplined. I was pretending to be sharp when in reality I was surviving off past work. And then it hit me. Life said, all right, let's test him. Everything started falling apart. The fake ones disappeared. The spotlight faded. I got hit from all sides, business, personal, emotional. And that pain, that was the alarm clock I needed. That was when the transformation began. That's when I started tearing apart the weak parts of me and rebuilding with steel. I used the pain, I turned it into fuel. Every insult, every betrayal, every loss. I stacked it like bricks. People don't understand the fire behind my eyes because they didn't feel the weight that built it. They see the results, not the nights, not the loneliness, not the silence. But I remember it all, and that memory keeps me sharp. That pain, it became my discipline. It pushed me to get out of bed when I didn't want to. It reminded me why I train, why I grind, why I don't tolerate weakness in my circle or myself. Most people waste their pain. They drown in it, medicate it, try to escape it. They say, why me? Instead of asking, what now? That's why they never grow. Because they see pain as punishment, not as preparation. I don't care what you've been through. If you're still breathing, that pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to sharpen you. Life doesn't test the weak. It tests the ones with potential. If it hurts, it means there's something valuable on the other side of it. The more it burns, the more it's working. That's the truth no one wants to hear. So don't run from it. Don't numb it. Don't drown it in distractions. Sit with it. Feel it fully. Let it show you what needs to change. Let it strip away the lies you've told yourself. Let it ignite something inside you that comfort never could. I'm telling you, once you've been broken by life and put yourself back together, you become someone they can't mess with anymore. You develop a strength that's unshakable. A focus that doesn't flinch. A mindset that refuses to quit everything they tried to use to break you. All the pain, the failures, the betrayals, they don't realize they were feeding the beast. They were sharpening the blade. And now, you're more dangerous than ever. Not because of how loud you are. Not because of how much you've gained. But because of what you've survived. because of what you've endured and chosen to become. And when they see you rise, when they see that look in your eyes, they won't understand it, but you will, because you were forged by pain, and pain doesn't lie. In this world, no one respects the man who quits. No one fears the guy who gives up when it gets uncomfortable. You know who gets respect? The one who doesn't stop. The one who keeps showing up day after day, whether he's broken, bleeding, hated, doubted, or completely alone. The world doesn't hand you anything just because you ask nicely. It doesn't care about your sad story or how unfair life has been to you. It watches. It waits. And it gives its rewards to the ones who are relentless. I learned that the hard way. I used to think talent was enough. I thought being sharp, being smart, having skills, that would carry me. And for a while, it did. But then life hit, and it hit hard. The kind of pressure that forces you to question everything you thought you were. The kind of pressure that doesn't care about your potential, your dreams, or your plans. It cares about your grit, your endurance. And I realized in those moments that talent means nothing if you're soft. If you quit when things get hard, you're not dangerous. You're replaceable. There was a time when I had every reason to stop. The business I built started crumbling. Relationships turned fake, loyalty vanished, and the noise of the world got louder than my own thoughts. People I once fed with my own hands turned their backs without hesitation. They watched me fall and didn't even blink. They waited for me to break. And if I'm being honest, part of me wanted to. I had nights where I lay there staring at the ceiling thinking, what's the point? Nights where getting up felt heavier than lifting weights. Nights where I didn't hear applause, just silence. But something inside me, something I can't fully explain, refused to die. I told myself, you've come too far to let weak men outlast you. I looked at myself and realized the only thing separating me from every other guy who gave up was one decision. Keep going. Not because I felt strong, not because I had hope, but because I knew deep down the world respects the relentless. And I wasn't going to be another casualty of comfort. You've got to understand this. Consistency beats intensity. Anyone can grind hard for a week, post some motivational quotes, hit the gym for a few days, read a few books. But can you do it when you're broken? Can you keep going when no one believes in you, when everyone's laughing, when there's no one to lean on? That's when it counts. That's when men are separated from boys. That's when warriors are built. People always say they want respect. They want power. But they don't want the grind that earns it. They don't want the lonely nights, the sweat, the failures, the betrayals, the time when you're not celebrated. They want the result, not the road. But I've walked that road. I've failed more times than I can count. I've made bad decisions, trusted the wrong people, overestimated my circle, underestimated the snakes. And I took the hits. I took every blow. But I never stayed down. That's what separates me. Not that I never lost, but that I kept moving through every loss. You know what I've learned. The world may ignore you for a while. It may even laugh at your pain. But when you keep rising, when you keep pushing through, when you refuse to break, they're forced to watch. They may not clap for you, but they'll respect you. And deep down, even your enemies will fear you, because you've proven you can't be stopped by anything outside of you. And that makes you lethal. There were seasons in my life where every door closed. People who once swore they'd ride with me vanished. My name was dragged, my image torn apart. And I had no one to explain my side. I had to sit in that darkness alone. And it's in that silence I made a decision. I will not die in this version of myself. I will not stay in this place. I will not give these people the satisfaction of watching me break. And day by day, I clawed my way back. No spotlight. No help. Just grit. Just focus. Just relentless work. I trained. I read. I strategized. I built again from scratch. And I didn't tell anyone, because the real ones don't talk. They execute. I moved like a ghost in the dark, stacking wins in silence, preparing to re-emerge when they least expected it. And when I came back, I wasn't the same. I was sharper, colder, more disciplined. Because I had been through hell, and I kept walking. That's why I don't fear loss anymore. I've faced it. I've buried versions of myself and come back stronger. And now I know, as long as I refuse to quit, I can never be defeated. You want to make a real comeback. A comeback that leaves people speechless. Then learn to shut up. Learn the power of silence. Because silence isn't weakness. It's precision. It's strategy. When you're down, when you've lost everything, when the world is watching and waiting for you to crack, that's when you stay quiet. That's when you let your actions do the talking. That's when you let your silence become the most deafening sound in the room. I've been in that position. I've had moments where I could have screamed. Moments where I wanted to call everyone out, defend myself, expose the lies, justify the truth. But I didn't, because real power doesn't beg to be understood. Real power doesn't explain. It doesn't plead for attention. It just moves in silence, and then strikes when it's ready. That's the difference between boys and men. Boys crave attention. Men operate in shadows. And I had to learn that the hard way. There was a season in my life when everything turned against me. My name was in everyone's mouth, but I wasn't in the room. People were writing my story without ever knowing the pages. I could have responded. I could have gone on interviews, clapped back, made noise. But I didn't. You know why? Because I wasn't interested in talking. I was interested in building. While they talked, I worked. While they watched, I sharpened. And the best part, they had no idea what was coming. Because I kept everything silent. Silence is a weapon. It confuses people. It frustrates the ones who want to see you react. They poke, they provoke, they spread rumors, and you give them nothing. That alone is power. You become unpredictable, untouchable, because once people realize they can't get inside your mind, they start to fear what they don't understand. That's when the shift happens. That's when control tilts in your favor. Most people fail in their comeback not because they lack the talent, but because they talk too much. They waste time trying to prove things with words instead of building evidence through action. They let emotions lead. They chase opinions, and in doing so, they forget the mission. But I didn't forget. I remembered everything. Every betrayal, every lie, every back turned. I just didn't announce my revenge. I built it. And when it arrived, it was loud without making a sound. I remember nights where the silence was so loud, it felt like it was screaming in my ears. I'd sit in rooms alone, no friends, no comfort, no reassurance. Just me and the weight of it all. I had to rebuild not just my life, but my identity. And that kind of transformation doesn't come with noise. It comes in stillness. When no one's watching, when you've got no support, when you're forced to face your own flaws. That's when you grow. That's when you evolve. The silence doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. You either run from it or you use it. I used it. You've got to stop posting every move. Stop telling people your plans. Stop explaining your motives. They don't need to know. In fact, it's better when they don't. Because when no one sees your progress, they can't sabotage it. When they think you're gone, when they assume you've faded, that's when you're the most dangerous. Because while they're laughing, you're building. While they're sleeping, you're calculating. And by the time they realize it, you've already won. People don't forget a quiet storm. They remember the one who vanished and returned like a ghost with fire in his eyes. They remember the one who didn't beg for understanding or attention, but let results shut every mouth that once doubted. That's what I became. That's what silence taught me. I've had to bury pride, bite my tongue, watch people lie on my name and act like they never knew me. But I swallowed it. I let them talk. And in that silence, I built something greater than revenge. I built power, discipline, patience, focus. Things I never would have found in the noise. So if you're on your knees right now, don't yell. Don't explain. Don't post. Work. Disappear if you have to. Reconstruct in private. Because nothing's more terrifying than a man who suffered in silence and returned without a word. Only results. And when you finally rise, they won't even hear it coming. Every time life knocks you down, you've got two choices. Sit there and cry about it, or get back up and use it. What most people don't understand is this: as every single setback is a setup, setup for something bigger, something harder, something greater. But only if you've got the mindset to see it that way. Most people don't. They fold. They panic. They turn one loss into a lifestyle. But not me. Not anymore. I turned every single loss into leverage. I've taken hits that should have ended me. I've had moments where I thought, this is it. This is the one that finishes me. And honestly, there were times I almost let it. Times where the pressure felt like it was cracking my chest open. I'd be up at 3 a.m., mind racing, thinking how fast everything had changed. 1 minute you're winning, and the next your world collapses. I've had money disappear overnight. I've watched people I trusted stab me without hesitation. I've had businesses crumble, my name dragged, and my image torn to pieces by people who didn't even know the truth. But here's what those moments taught me. Fars, you don't lose when you fall, you lose when you stay there. Doxiaziacs. The thing about setbacks is they come dressed as failure, but they're not. They're really just pressure tests. Life saying, let's see if you're serious. Let's see if you've got what it takes. And the crazy thing is, when I stopped viewing setbacks as the enemy, everything changed. I started asking myself, why is this happening for me? Not, why is this happening to me? And once you do that, you start using the pain. You start using the betrayal. You start using the delay. Suddenly, what was meant to break you becomes fuel. Every door that closed redirected me to one I didn't even see before. Every person that left made room for someone better. Every loss taught me something winning never could. I remember one specific moment. Everything was falling apart. The stress was eating me alive. I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't eating right. I was losing focus. And I caught myself standing in front of the mirror, looking dead in my own eyes. And I asked myself, is this where you fold? After everything, is this how your story ends? And that question, it flipped something inside me. I realized this moment wasn't meant to destroy me. It was meant to expose the weak spots. It was meant to make me rebuild stronger, more focused, more locked in. And that's exactly what I did. People love the success story. They love the comeback once you're back on top. But they never understand what you went through when no one was clapping, when every day felt like a war. That's the part they don't see. And it's the part that makes you. The grind you go through when no one's watching. That's the part that gives your comeback weight. That's what gives your words credibility, because you're not speaking from theory. You're speaking from experience. From scars. From pain you didn't just survive, but weaponized. I've had people tell me, you're lucky. Lucky. No, I was prepared. And I was prepared because I kept getting hit. Over and over, every time I rebuilt, I got sharper, stronger. I stopped depending on luck, and I started depending on me. On my mindset, my routine, my discipline. I turned the pain into purpose, the losses into lessons, and the silence into strength. And now, I look back at those setbacks and I thank them. Because without them, I'd still be soft. I'd still be naive. I'd still be trusting people who didn't deserve access to my energy. I'd still be walking around thinking I was ready, when I wasn't. Setbacks are brutal. But they're not the end. They're just redirections. They're course corrections. They're the universe telling you you're not ready yet. Go sharpen up. Go get right. But most people take it personal. They crumble. They start believing the failure defines them. No, the failure is just data. It's feedback. And if you're smart, if you're disciplined, you use it. You study it. You apply it. And you come back 10 times harder. That's the formula. It's not emotional. It's strategic. I don't care what you've lost. I don't care how bad it looks. If you're still breathing, then the setback didn't win. You've still got time. You've still got opportunity. But you've got to stop crying over what happened and start building with what's left. Because what's left is enough. It's enough to rebuild. It's enough to rise. It's enough to come back with something they won't even see coming. Every setback is a setup, but only if you make it one. There comes a point where talking isn't enough. Words become cheap. You've told everyone what you're going to do. You've made the promises. You've said, just wait and see. But the truth is, no one's listening anymore. They've heard it all before. At some point, if you really want respect, if you really want redemption, you've got to stop speaking and start showing. You've got to prove it through action, not words. I've been that guy. I've sat there in rooms full of people, telling them I was going to rise again, telling them I had a plan. I thought if I explained my vision well enough, they'd understand. I thought if I laid out my goals, people would back me. But life doesn't work like that. People only believe results. No one's going to invest in your comeback story when it's still just talk. You could give the most passionate speech. You could cry about how much you want it. But if there's no execution, none of it matters. They'll smile in your face, nod their heads, pretend they care. But deep down, they're thinking, I'll believe it when I see it. I had to learn that the hard way. After I lost everything, I was still trying to talk my way back into people's respect. Trying to explain what happened. Trying to justify where I was going. But every time I opened my mouth, I could feel it. The doubt. People don't say it to your face, but you can feel it in the air. They don't believe you. They're just waiting for you to fail again. And one day I realized, why the hell am I wasting energy convincing people who don't even matter? That's when everything changed. I shut up. I went silent. I stopped trying to win people over. I stopped trying to convince the world that I still had value. And I started grinding. In silence. With no camera. No spotlight. No one cheering. Just pain. Just hunger. I remember the early mornings when I was dragging myself out of bed, sore, exhausted. No energy left in the tank, but still pushing through because I made a decision. I would let the work speak for me. See? When you move like that, something powerful happens. You shift from needing validation to becoming undeniable. Your results start speaking louder than your voice ever could. People start noticing, not because you told them to, but because they can't ignore what you've built. I've walked into rooms where the same people who once mocked me had to watch me win. And I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. My life did the talking. People want to be respected, but they don't want to sacrifice. They want the outcome, but not the grind. They want people to cheer for them, but they've done nothing worth cheering for. That's not how greatness is earned. You want people to take you seriously. Show them consistency. Show them discipline. Show them what you've built with your back against the wall and no help in sight. There were years of my life where everything I touched fell apart. And I mean everything. Relationships broke, money disappeared, fake people exposed themselves, and I had no momentum left. I was starting over, completely alone, and no one wanted to hear my story. That was the moment I understood something deep. Your comeback doesn't need an audience. It needs obsession, focus, work ethics so relentless that eventually even your enemies start respecting you because they can't deny you anymore. You don't need a motivational speech to prove who you are. You need proof. You need the receipts, the late nights, the early mornings. The failures you turned into fuel. You need to become so locked in that no one can question your name without looking foolish. And the only way to get there is to put in the work while staying silent. Let them talk. Let them doubt. Let them laugh. Let them think you're finished. And when you finally step back into the light, when the results are too loud to ignore, no apology will be necessary. No explanation will be required. You won't need to prove anything, because by then you've already proven it. Not with your mouth, with your life. You don't rise through talk. You rise through action. So stop trying to explain your greatness. Just become it.